Well, hello everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. Today we will dive into a very exciting topic, Excellence Council Perspectives, AI Fluency and Talent Density in Tech 2026. This session is eligible for HRCI, SHRM, and ATD professional development credits. Now, before we dive into today's content, let me tell you about Brennan Hall Group and some incredible opportunities that could accelerate your career. Brennan Hall Group is a leading professional development firm that has been serving learning, talent, and HR executives worldwide for more than 30 years. We've advanced the growth and performance of millions of employees and leaders through our cloud-based platform, delivering evidence-based research, data, and certification programs that empower organizations to achieve excellence in every area of human capital management. Our impact spans more than 10 million employees and executives globally, supported by our comprehensive research library, strategic insights, and prestigious awards program. Below is a sample of the organizations we are proud to partner with. We have incredible learning and networking opportunities, our two BRIC events happening this year, our AI Summit on October 15th, and our Leadership Summit on November 17th and 18th. And don't forget to save the date for next year's 2027 HCM Excellence Conference happening January 26th through the 28th. All details for everything I've mentioned will be available in a PDF you'll receive within 24 hours after the webinar. Now, I would like to launch a poll. Based off everything I just went over, we would like to learn more about what you would like to learn more about. Is it our institute, our awards program, our 2027 HCM Excellence Conference, or maybe it's one of our BRIC summits? I know I'm definitely excited about our BRIC summits happening later this year. All right, thank you, everyone. Now, just a few quick things to note. If you have any questions during the webinar, please use the questions panel on your control bar. We'll be answering them throughout the session. We're also recording today's webinar, and you'll receive an email within 24 hours with a link to the recording and a PDF of the slides. The chat box is open, so feel free to share your thoughts as we go along. Your input makes this more valuable for everyone. Now, I would like to pass things off to David.
Well, hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Ivy, thank you for the introduction. My name is David Forey. I'm a Senior Vice President here at Brennan Hall Group. I run our Excellence Councils as well as do some research myself as a Managing Director. So I'm incredibly honored to be joined by two of our Excellence Council members and would love for you each to introduce yourself briefly. Micah, you're on the left, so let's start with you this time.
Wonderful. Really glad to be here and to join you all on a super interesting conversation. I have been thinking about learning for the last 30 years, first as an education entrepreneur, and then leading enablement teams at Salesforce, Informatica, and now at Zendesk. I'm really excited to be part of creating what is going to be the future of human capital.
Perfect. Thank you, Micah. Sujatha.
Thank you, David. And hello, everyone. I'm Sujatha Das, currently playing the role of Global Leader of Knowledge Excellence at Tavant, an IT products and services company with more than 3 decades of experience into the IT industry. I have enjoyed multiple roles, learning, leadership development, quality, and knowledge management. And each of these roles have really helped me grow. And I'm really excited in today's AI-related area and environment to be able to discuss this and to see how we can bring our organizations to the forefront. Learning and leadership development remains my passion, and I consider myself as a lifelong learner. Thank you very much for inviting me. That's truly an honor.
Wonderful. Thank you both. And I saw the chat, Ivy just dropped in, where you're calling in from. And I saw Micah responded. And if you saw him drinking a warm beverage, maybe coffee or tea, that's because he's calling in from California at 11 a.m. Eastern. That's nice and early. Whereas Sujatha calling in from India at the end of the day. So I do appreciate both of you as well as everybody on the call logging in their respective time zones. So today we wanted to talk a little bit about this paper. And for those of you who don't know, our Excellence Council at Brennan Hall Group is made up of professionals and leaders in different spaces And in Q1, we put together a series of reports on 5 different industries: tech, healthcare, uh, banking and finance, manufacturing, retail. And each one of those, we put together a paper to look at some key themes that are happening that are very exclusive for their industry. You can see at the bottom, there's several people that weighed in from our Excellence Council on those topics and giving their feedback on what's happening in 2026 in the tech and software space. So there's some key themes that we identified, and we're going to go through some of those today. And I'm going to allow Micah and Sujatha to be the ones to share their feedback because they are the experts here. And I am the lucky one that gets to have this conversation and, of course, learn from them. So as we dive in, there's one big thing that we see, of course, and even more so in the tech industry over any other industry that we talk to. That, of course, is the AI landscape. So we're going to launch one more poll asking you what phase of AI maturity do you think your team or organization is in right now? So this is actually an AI progression model that Brandon Hall Group has developed on these 5 different areas of maturity. And I don't like to necessarily call it maturity. That's why we made it a progression model, because every organization is at the phase that they're probably meant to be. Some organizations are more sophisticated. Many tech organizations are more sophisticated. And I would love to hear from each of you. Maybe Micah, if you can kind of share where your organization is, because I know Zendesk is very AI forward in your product, but thinking about the organization, could you briefly share where you all are?
Yeah, well, Zendesk does first and foremost think of ourselves as an AI company. We are in the top 5 token users of OpenAI, and we are involved with pretty much every one of the major models. It's embedded into our product. It's absolutely our go-to-market motion. Internally, that of course puts a huge amount of pressure on basically every function to be not just AI fluent, but AI transformational. So I would put our organizational maturity internally and our internal use of AI as somewhere between phase 4 and 5. There's just an enormous organizational pressure. That pressure has been on for several years now, so this is not new. Uh, and it's accelerating. We get new use cases for AI innovation almost weekly at this point, if not daily. And so just keeping up has become the challenge.
Thank you, Micah. Sujatha, if you can share where your organization is at Tavant.
I think I would agree and echo whatever Micah has said. We do have an AI team, and we've been actually having that vertical for quite some time now. And we've been built AI into our products as well as the services. But yes, we do have a fintech as one of our client base, and the other is on the high tech. So we see more movements into the high tech than fintech, where there has been a lot of resistance for obvious reasons. But I would say we are also somewhere between phase 4 and 5, definitely doing the transformation and moving ahead very fast. Thank you.
Great. And the results, that came in, we have a lot of people in phase 2, phase 3 areas, and then scattered some on phase 1, and then, a few on 4 or 5 as well. So we have a good mix. And, with phase 2 and phase 3, you're certainly seeing some successes and looking how to scale it. And hopefully you'll get some ideas from the conversation today that might help. One quick note, Ivy, if you can drop, I know we didn't plan this, but if you could drop a link to the landing page of the perspectives book, that way everyone can download it that's on the call if they want to dive deeper. We're going to go through some key themes, but if people want to download it, it'd be great to have that link right there in front of them. So we're going to start things off. One of the themes that we saw in the research paper is that while AI capability is accelerating very quickly, workforce readiness is not always keeping the same pace. Would love to hear, Sujatha, does that reflect in what you're seeing within your organization, or maybe even some of your peers that you chat with?
Absolutely. I think we are living in the strangest paradox sometimes of our careers, where we've never had such more powerful tools. At the same time, we've never felt less ready. And that gap between the capability and the readiness is one of the single most conversation I think I've heard in all the HR or L&D forums, as well as the business leaders, especially. I'm thrilled that we're having the same thing today. And AI capability, I think, is really advancing at an unprecedented pace. And while human capability, as we all know, develop over months and years through experience and practice. So that growing gap is the reality organizations are now facing, and they need to consciously manage the same. Especially in IT, I think the effective life of technical skills have shortened dramatically. What used to be considered as a best practice few months ago today needs a revision. And I think continuous learning is no longer a career choice. It's a baseline expectation. And that's exactly what we do at Tavant. I mean, we don't have an annual calendar anymore. We actually plan our calendars in line with the business needs or the projects which is coming in, and what is it that our people really need. And it's mostly from a quarterly basis that we really look at. And we are very conscious about looking at the skills, what they need, whether we do an upskilling or reskilling, while we also take inputs from external research, for example, technical radar newspapers or things like that, where we find what are the new things coming up. But unless and until we have a very strong discussion, it's a great partnership with the business, we don't take it forward from there. So the critical challenge is not just about technical readiness. I also feel it's a cognitive readiness which is there, because today people may quickly learn a tool, but the real skill lies in, where to apply, knowing where to apply AI, or what type of questions you need to really give for an output, or when does human judgment take a precedence. And AI is becoming embedded into daily work. I think decision matters as much as the proficiency part. One of the other things also what we have seen among our people is on the widening of confidence versus a competence gap, which essentially what I mean is, while AI tools can increase, the perceived productivity, not everyone is confident to explain, or for that matter, validate or defend that outcomes, that whatever is being produced. So if those are left unaddressed, I'm sure that there are operational and trust risks which can really come in. So these are some conscious areas that we as an organization try to look at. And from a learning perspective, we don't have any standalone programs per se. It is very much embedded into the work and blended based on our people's needs, because they do a lot of projects, they have less time. So there's an integrated development environment that we have provided. AI-assisted coaching is there. We have our subject matter experts who are coaching and mentoring, along with some of the virtual sessions as well. But a lot of hands-on is what we try to do, using labs where we don't have, licenses, because we are also cost conscious, because not every customer requires those. At the same point of time, yes, it's not just delivery while we are into IT. I'm sure every AI is touching every workforce in every department. So building that organizational readiness itself means equipping all functions to work responsibly, confidently, and effectively alongside AI. And personally, I feel that AI adoption is far, far ahead than AI accountability, because that's where the real gap is. And if we are able to adopt it in the right manner, then we get the right results. That's what I would like to share here.
That's great. And I heard another tech CEO talk about their software engineers, and they said many people think a software engineer's job is to write code. And in reality, AI can write code faster. In some cases, it can write it better. But a software engineer's true value for an organization is to find user bugs and user needs, and find out how to create solutions. And that part of the skills conversation that you talked about, Sujatha, really stuck with me from a tech perspective. Really reevaluating the roles and the true capabilities of somebody. So, Micah, what are you seeing at Zendesk?
Yeah, I would agree with everything that Sujatha said. the pace is absolutely incredible. And so you see widely dispersed adoption. I've got some folks on my team that are truly exploring the boundaries of what we can do internally with vibe coding, with process improvements and enhancements. And it's really extraordinary. And then I've got other folks that, well, not maybe resistant because AI doesn't dramatically impact their day-to-day work. They're just, not as experimental. I sort of say to my team all the time that we're in the wild west of AI, and every technology goes through this kind of same maturity model that you very similar to what you showed up earlier, David, where if you think about the Western expansion in the United States, at first it was just the gates were open and anyone who wanted to was coming west, and towns sprung up out of nowhere, and enterprising entrepreneurs started businesses out of nothing and farms out of nothing, and there was basically not a lot of control, and that's a little bit like where we're at here, where everyone's trying every experiment they can think of. There's going to be some control to that, and that will inevitably slow that curve down somewhat. And so I'm telling my team right now, go as fast as you can, experiment with everything you can, because that controlled world will come. And that'll make it a little easier for those slower adopters, or maybe those places where the workflow isn't directly impacted, to start to catch up. At least that's the mantra that I've been telling my team. We have to go as fast and as far as we possibly can right now, with the knowledge that eventually things will inevitably slow down somewhat for the humans involved. I want to just emphasize what Sujatha said. Moore's law increased the ability of compute power for decades. And now AI is upending that law and going even faster, but the human brain remains stubbornly exactly the same as we have seen for years. And so I think we have to be both patient with ourselves and remember that we're going to evolve into essentially a new era. You can't do anything without the internet anymore. You wouldn't even think about a life without industrialization or the promise that revolution brought to us. AI is going to do the same thing, and humans will catch up. It's just going to take us a little bit of time.
Micah, that's a great point. And until we really reach the matrix level where we could just plug in and know how to do everything, I
Right.
think we do have to continue to hone our cognitive abilities around these types of things and keep learning. I think that the next conversation that I always hear from people is, okay, I understand the AI layer, but now it comes down to human judgment, where we really embed AI into the day to day. But where does the human layer come in? So, Micah, if we could start with you on this and talk about balancing between automation and human judgment.
Yeah, I mean, this is relevant for Zendesk in so many ways because our AI agents are beginning to handle, or not even beginning, are fully handling customer service workflows. And you absolutely need that level of security and human judgment to make sure that those workflows are being executed correctly. Same thing for us in enablement. We're automating go-to-market workflows all the time. So how do we prospect? How do we qualify? How do we advance proposals? Even to the point of thinking through how do we negotiate in a world of AI. And in every one of those touch points, we need a human in the loop. We talk about it all the time that every piece of automation that we create still needs to, at this point, have a human in the loop. So if we're grading boot camp submissions, for instance, which used to be a hugely taxing challenge for our managers. Our account executives would submit pitches. We'd want to make sure that they understood the value that the company is bringing to our customers, and a manager would have to review that. And you have huge human in the loop in that environment, but it's enormously taxing for managers, and you get widely varied kinds of responses based on who that manager is. AI allows us to do that with absolute consistency, but we have to still be reviewing every single one of those grades essentially to make sure that they still align with the standards and the rubrics that we've established. So yes, we want to automate everything, and at least at this stage of AI, we want to make sure that a human is in the loop whenever it needs to be, until we have 100% certainty.
Great. Sujatha, how are things going on the balance at your organization?
Well, we have two business verticals, if I were to say, let's say fintech and high tech. Now, high tech, at least people have been, the customers have been much more forthcoming and they've been accepting to some extent and partnering with us for various aspects. But from a fintech for obvious reasons. It's not something where people have been fully coming up, but slowly and steadily they are getting influenced and they're taking some of the AI leverage which is there. But our guiding principle has been automate what is more predictable and elevate which requires the judgment. So AI, I believe, I mean, one of the key things about Microsoft's naming Copilot, I think that's one thing which caught me. They should act as a co-pilot and not as an autopilot, is what I would say. And in IT, if you were to say AI excels in almost, let's say, 80% of the initial work of routine coding, or maybe log analysis, or ticket analysis, routing, or drafting documentation based on the roles of what people are doing. But definitely the final 20%, whether it's the context, whether it's the ethics and the trust, really remains a human responsibility which are there. So we have intentionally started building what I can call as last mile of judgment, the ability to review AI output critically. So we are using it in every stage. We also have certain frameworks created within our organization, Ignite framework, which is there for an entire SDLC. So be it a business analyst or a developer or an architect, every stage we have really made sure that there is a human intervention in terms of their review, looking at the defects or hallucinations or biasness, or and taking ownership of those decisions which are there. So I feel roles are not really disappearing per se, but they're evolving. We need to really redesign the work. As I was trying to mention, developer is not just coding, or maybe he's not coding at all, but the code is being prepared by the AI. At the same point of time, he needs to have an architect mindset so that he can see the entire purview, make sure that there is quality in the entire aspect of what the outcome is. And that's what is more important at this point of time. So we are looking towards that AI fluent people with strong judgment and accountability. That's where we are focusing to build our people. And I would say speed without judgment is definitely a risk, but AI definitely gives us speed, but humans must provide that judgment, and that's where the balance would come in.
I think that speed is a big part of the conversation, Sujatha, and would love to see if you can kind of like double tap into that conversation and talk a little bit about. Oh, I think I'm on the wrong slide here. I apologize. I'm trying to get my cameras back. Yeah, with so many organizations under the AI understanding of efficiency or speeding things up, but at the same time, we still need to manage the team, manage the emotions, and really protect the talent as we attempt to, as Micah said, go to that wild, wild west mentality of how quickly can we get there. So, trying to balance those two things, when you think about your talent and your team, how do you manage those with trying to improve efficiency?
I think in this AI moment, the most valuable skill is not just coding, but it's not even just prompting or even strategy. I feel it's willingness to be a beginner again, where you can be more open towards adapting yourself to things which are coming in, and that's where the workforce readiness is all about. So talent density, if you ask me, is not just about a headcount; it's more about the capability. And I think with the right moves, organization can become smaller and stronger at the same time. So if you have people who are willing to learn, who are able to reskill, who are able to really upskill in terms of their capabilities which are there, I think they become, and they can complement their strengths, that becomes much more stronger than anything else. And therefore we are developing our internal capability. Our guiding principle has been on reskilling before any replacement, though we do appreciate that, when we take some of the niche skills from outside, when people join, they bring in new perspectives, all that is there, but we definitely give a lot more importance to our internal talent by reskilling them or upskilling them. and quickly shift to higher value work where they are needed the most. So I think be it architects or principal engineers or we really want to build our best people because they also have that culture. They understand the whole culture, they understand the customers. So a lot more can be done with existing people. And one of the key things we are also trying to bring in here is making managers as a true force multipliers, where they are able to coach their team into leveraging the AI to the best, providing them with maximum, let's say hands-on or ability where they can really build up, raise their performance and judgment, which is there, so that their capability really comes out. And one more important aspect is transparency. Wherever I feel talent density is built on trust, I feel they really work much better. The higher capability per person is what increases the team. So that's where we are focusing on.
Micah, is that similar within your organization?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would echo Sujatha here. If you're a leader out there and you're not thinking about this balance of how the future of your workforce will evolve, you're probably already behind. I think all the time about, am I maximizing the skills and talents of my internal team? Are we enabling our go-to-market teams to be as efficient as they possibly can? And what implications does that have for how many people we're going to need? We look at efficiency quite a bit. How many customers can a seller handle? How many customers can a customer service rep support? How many customers can a solutions consultant support? And those answers have been static for a decade in the cloud computing era. They're starting to shift and change. And I don't know that the answer is going to necessarily be less people, but it's certainly going to be people doing different things at different parts of the business cycle. It's a genuine challenge. I don't think that there's anyone who has all the answers just yet, but I think that we're evolving and understanding about looking at what humans with the support of AI infrastructure and AI automation can achieve that previously just wasn't accessible. And so it's going to be a really interesting next couple of years. I think this is the right question at the right time, and I'll be curious along with all of us to see how this evolves.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the great things of, being a part of the Excellence Council is hearing these different conversations at different organizations. Everyone is evolving and everyone is progressing at different speeds. The industry play is certainly interesting. There was a manufacturing company that I was talking to about talent density, and they said that they basically moved their entire marketing department into the community management side, which is on the customer engagement side, not on the marketing side. So they were actually able to really reduce their marketing footprint because of all of the advances in AI. And instead of getting rid of those employees, they were able to reappear in a different part of the organizations, of course, mapping back to the skills conversation. Whereas on the other side that you mentioned, Micah, there's a organization that was customer support. And they, of course, leveraged AI to really increase the efficiency gains. And they picked up, it was actually just 20%. And of course, that translates as to one entire day of efficiency. So rather than remove people from the organization to make up for that efficiency, they use that 20% to allow them to redevelop themselves. Right now I'm a line one. I want to get to level 2 help support. How can I do that? How can I train myself to get to that next level within the organization? What are some other roles that I should explore? What are ways I can give back to my organization? So the talent density conversation is really fun right now. And I hope that there's, lots of people having those conversations with their peers within the organization, as well as some externally across industries and sectors. The other idea of a more dynamic and real-time view of skills that comes up in our research is how are you approaching that visibility that I mentioned and mobility? I talked about that organization that was able to move people, other people that were able to move people up. So, talent density, of course, kind of goes into that conversation of where should people be going? and the skills conversation, which is really hot again, because AI has completely transformed what a skill means. What does skills mean to me? So how do you all look at it? If either one of you want to jump in first, feel free. Would love to hear your understanding on skills visibility.
Yeah, I'll jump in because the timing of this question is perfect. We literally just completed our half yearly skills assessment for our go-to-market teams, and we immediately began doing something we've never done before, which is starting to use our call intelligence software. We use Gong for our go-to-market call intelligence and compare it against these self-ratings. Skills assessment in the world of enablement has been largely self-reported. We got to go to sellers or to customer service reps, and we got to ask them, how good are you at prospecting? How good are you at all the things that we need you to be good at? And now, for the very first time, we can actually look inside and see those conversations. And with a tool like Gong, we can compare their self-analysis against what we're seeing in the data, and it's not the same. We're seeing some really interesting variation in that data, and of course, that has huge implications for human learning because it allows us to not just trust the self understanding. I think I'm really great at maintaining relationships because all of my customers love me. Well, then we go into the data and we look at you're discounting heavily against our guidance, and no wonder they love you because you're giving away the farm and maybe creating an opportunity for us to have a different kind of conversation. That is in my career brand new and a completely different way to look at skills development and then skills enablement over time. And I think that this component is going to get really interesting, but it's also really scary because at the same time, do we all want our employers listening in on every single conversation, paying attention to every single keystroke? At some point, we move from a environment where we're trying to support skill growth and development to a really oversight approach where only a select group of people can fit into that corporate mold. So I'm really sensitive to both sides of this conversation. So Jeff, I'd love to see how you're approaching this from a global perspective, because my focus is, of course, on these go-to-market skills. I have no idea how this conversation happens when we start to bring in technology, when we start to think about legal and finance and human resources. It is a really interesting conversation.
Thank you. And I think I would echo most of whatever you have said is a similar experience that we have too. But I think Q2, after Q2 of last year, in fact, we moved away from the annual skill survey or any of those discussions. We had a clear focus on, AI first, and therefore we started really looking at that living skill graph by, looking at the real work, what people have been doing. We used to have knowledge sharing sessions on whatever people have built in AI within the organization. So people contributing what they have learned, what they are doing. And even our learning activities are very much, as I mentioned, in line with the business needs and people needs, including the certifications. So we really look at AI as an enabler, trying to understand what people actually do as well. Not just, as you said, the self-assessment definitely gives that gap. But like David was saying with this experience with one of the companies, we've also started having that structured path to help them. So it is a blended way if they want to really follow a path of coming into a virtual instructor-led facilitated sessions, have peer-to-peer cohort, and then learn, that's one way. Otherwise, if they want to do a self-learning because of their project pressures, we do give them a learning path. And therefore, they have something to really guide them and take them forward. And we're always there with our mentors. Managers also support. There used to be a time where, I'm sure every manager would like to have the best employee and their team members with them. So that hoarding mentality used to be there at one point. But today it's a time where they're all understanding the need and of growth and, trying to promote people. So we do have the bench concepts. Once people complete a project, they come onto the bench, and that is the time they reskill and upskill based on the upcoming projects which are coming there. I mean, be it a product or a project, that's the way that they are really moving. And we also have made it very personal. So every employee or an associate with us can visibly know what their profile is, what their gaps are, and we recommend that learning path to them very clearly and support them with all the resources which are there. So that's how we've been taking it, and definitely a skills data, if it is static, I think all decisions will get outdated in no time. But this is very interesting, and more really as we go in deeper, as you said, Michael, I think a lot more to really go and experiment and find out. And I'm sure there'll be more and more changes that is going to come in.
If I could, David, I want to pick up on something that Sujata
Sure.
said right there, because this idea of dynamic skills assessment, in the learning world, we've essentially had two motions, right? You can go through a set of learning, you can take a test or submit some work, and you get a certification. Maybe with AI, we're at the cusp of a new kind of assessment, which is adaptive and personalized, where the AI is testing you against a set of conditions, and then you're able to kind of come out of that with a really efficient path towards growth. We will have sellers that come into Zendesk that are 30-year veterans and they know the industry cold. They don't need to be doing remedial enablement. They don't need to be going through some of our basic things, but we really haven't had another way to ensure that they are ready to support customers. This might be the dawning of a whole new era for skills assessment and then skill pathing, which makes me very, very excited as a lover of efficiency and as someone who hates having my time wasted. I can't wait to offer that ability to be really hyper personalized in a skills both assessment and then skills development process.
Absolutely. I think the introduction of generative AI really sent a lot of learning and talent professionals down the route of content generation. And I think a lot of people have gotten that down. And then, the next thing is more that personalized learning approach that you both talked about. But more importantly, you can't have personalized learning without really understanding where the person is. So 100%, that's certainly what we're hearing at Brandon Hall Group, where organizations are really diving in on the learning and talent side, as well as the talent acquisition side that you both mentioned. Bringing somebody in that's new, really understanding where they are. Can they do the task already? What is their proficiency? And that assessment capability is really impactful in this new world that we live in. So very excited about that. I'm actually partnering up with another managing director, Dave Wentworth, not to be confused with me, who we're tackling that skills conversation, and we're looking end to end, all throughout the organization, and really trying to unpack that skills conversation. So I know to go back to both of you and ask you some follow-up questions. So be on the lookout for that. We'll definitely want to get your insights captured in that report. On the other side, the conversation we're also hearing is the burnout side. Because we are running so fast and things are shifting so often, a lot of people in tech are getting burned out, because the ball seems to move, constantly. It just feels like we're always sprinting towards the finish line, and as soon as we get there, the finish line is moved. So, how are you seeing some popular ways to combat the burnout and the cognitive overload in tech? Sujata, why don't you start off with this one?
Yeah, I completely agree that, people today are not overwhelmed by hours of workload. It is more from overwhelming of that constant decision changes, interruptions, context changing, all of that which is happening. And I think also from an IT industry, an average IT professional moves between many applications in a day, and that switch also really carries that cognitive cost, if you were to say. So when we address it in three different ways, at least that's what we are trying to do. I can also say from my own experience and with my team's this thing, we try to reduce that noise by simplifying tools and using AI to summarize information, or do whatever is something which can be done. So for example, when I have a conversation or a discussion with the business, or maybe discussions on the learning initiatives or things like that, I make sure that there is a recorded transcript, and Copilot really summarizes everything and gives me. And I also use it to see some things, points that we may not have discussed, or maybe some things we can really look into. So a lot of things that we may miss also may come out. So I do appreciate that, rather than breaking my head, things are there pretty fast. At the same point of time, I have very consciously built in the focus time into my calendar. Even if it is half an hour or whatever, there's no meeting block, or you can actually focus on certain things. I've even timed up, maybe half an hour, 30 minutes for catching up on mails in between. But definitely a 1 hour focus hour is there, be it in the morning or afternoon, so that I can focus on specific areas that I really want, that prioritizing. And of course, restoring that recovery is something like a real time off, or some support that you have, or something you want to really do, which is apart from what is there in the work. And those are some of the ways by which I guess most of our people also really go. We do appreciate wherever there is a way by which we can collaborate on teams rather than getting into a meeting. I think that's really helped even our teams, especially when you're working from multi locations. That truly helps. It does not mean that we don't meet, but we certainly meet maybe once in a week or something. Virtually everyone comes on board, but the more which is there, the conversations which are there gets reduced, and it's to the point when you're trying to have AI as an enabler. And we're able to track those through, whether it's a pulse survey, or I'm sure you can measure and also manage it in terms of how much your productivity is, or where are you really looking at, etc. Do you need that gap? And if people feel that they are really getting bogged down, I think one of the key things I've seen is people come back and speak about it also. So that's the way we are trying to solve it at this point of time.
Thank you, Sujatha. Micah, how about you and your organization?
And I wish I had a better answer than Sujatha. That was good, because I struggle with this. I think this is one of the hardest things about being a modern employee anywhere, and especially in the tech industry where things are moving so fast. The context switching and the a number of projects that we have to manage and multitask is really taxing. And I especially love what Sujatha said about the cognitive load isn't necessarily the difficulty or the number of hours. It really is trying to move between different frames of mind. I'm working on this project, and now I've got to stop working on that, and I've got to start this other one. That switch every time I find to be the most exhausting thing. So I love that you said that. There's a couple of things that we try to do. The first thing that I try to do is meetings always have to have a structured environment. So we want to know what we're going into and try to prevent that context switching where possible. I start my team meetings with a quick check-in on our lives, just to say, how are you doing as a human? What's going on with you this weekend? How are your kids? To take a moment to remind ourselves that we're still human beings in this incredibly fast-paced world. The second thing that we do is Zendesk as a company starts every meeting at 5 after the hour. Seems like a small thing, but just that little tiny break, being able to come off of one call, take a breath, use the restroom if you need to, grab some coffee or tea. That moment really, for me anyway, is enormously productive and extremely helpful. I didn't even recognize how burned out I was going from 30 to 60 to 30 to 60 in my whole life in 30-minute increments until I got a 5-minute break in between, and it really changed the game. And then the last thing we do is really conscious project management, to really be in so whatever project management tool we're using. I want to be able to know what work everyone's going on and be able to find that work as quickly as I can, so that I'm preventing the exhaustion of searching. There's an exhaustion to trying to find something, and whenever we can take that load down, I think it makes a huge difference. So those are some of the practical things we do, but I will be the first to admit there's lots more work to be done here, and it is an increasingly challenging problem.
Yeah, absolutely. And, just last week, at least here in America, they had Bring Your Child to Work Day I think last Thursday. It was a big event here at our headquarters, the Boca Raton Innovation Campus. Lots of tech companies in our building. And somebody mentioned that bring your child to work day was the day that you would bring your kids to work. But in reality, since everybody's, carrying around this phone and answering emails, listening into calls, I might be on a call and I have a kid in the car and they're hearing the conversation too. So, just the idea that it really never turns off anymore. We never really step away from work, and finding effective ways like Sujatha and Micah recommended on ways that you can turn it off and reduce that overload, and even your thought load. What are you thinking about at that given time? Really shifting the conversation. It's very important for us all to think about. And I know that we have about 15 minutes here, and I hope that we'll get some questions in the chat. Please feel free. This is the last one, and to me, it's a little bit of switch, right? And especially in tech, the joke in tech is in software is you can't really have a 18-month roadmap anymore. People are looking at like weeks now, but if the two of you were able to stop and actually think 2 to 3 years from now, what's going to be the difference of workforce readiness, organizations that are getting things right versus those that are not. So obviously we got to think a little further than week to week here, but just you could come up with anything. What would you recommend, or what would you think is that next level?
You want to take that
Okay,
first,
I'll take.
Sujatha?
Okay, I'll go first. Okay. I strongly believe, and this is my personal belief, I think winners won't be just people who are best in AI. It would be more who can adapt because change is so fast. And winning organizations will have to really start relooking themselves as more of that learning system continually, which is happening where be it a project or be it an incident or any interactions with the client or people ideas, all of these are continuously feeding into that shared capability that is being made, especially when you're augmenting along with AI. And culture, I think, matters more in this entire thing. People need to be curious. You can't force them to learn. They need to understand and adapt when you're augmenting with AI, how to work with AI and where they can put in their strengths better, be it emotional or empathy or taking that inspirational way of connecting with people, communication, all of those aspects, and more than anything, willingness to be a beginner again. I think when we speak about that, learn, unlearn, relearn, all of those aspects, you still need to have that curiosity and wanting to do things and probably in all different ways because when the ecosystem changes, you can't always get the same results. So that's where I think things will change. And leaders definitely need to set it on because people really look up to leaders, and I think it has to come. I was talking to one of my ex-colleagues the other day who started something, and he was trying to tell me the same thing. At a certain level, you feel, oh, you just need people who know AI. I don't need to do it. But that's wrong. You definitely need to have leaders really practice it so that everyone follows. The other aspect is also the trust and psychological safety. That becomes really quite multipliers where people need to be given the time for experimenting, learning, innovating, at the same point of time feeling very safe. So guardrails which are required within AI, creating that awareness so that they are ethically correct. There is a readiness over there. And above everything, I think the differentiation will be how we as people are, or the human strengths which are really coming up will differentiate the whole thing because be it judgment, be it empathy, be it ethics, be it storytelling, all that really matters more. And that's what I believe in, be it every metric or roadmap or strategy. I think the human being trying to figure it out, where we all fit in, where we are leading with the truth, and the rest actually follows. So that's what I feel about this particular one, and it's a very important one to think about as well.
Those are great insights, Sujatha. And the thing that I like to say is the more an organization relies on AI, the more the leader needs to rely on empathy. and having that empathy within your organization, that psychological safety that you mentioned, Sujata, is very critical. But we have to remember what is uniquely human. What is something that humans can do at this moment better than AI? And
Yeah.
that is, some of those traits that you mentioned, Sujata, are so important now more than ever. Micah, would love to hear, first your reaction on Sujata, and then if there's any different predictions that you have for organizations that are getting workforce readiness right.
Well, first of all, I'm glad that she went first because that was such an insightful answer. And I don't know that I have anything different, but I might frame it just the way that my brain thinks. We've always, kind of in the corporate zeitgeist, we've said things like we value curiosity over productivity, effectiveness over effort, fluency, conversation, and empathy over technical skill. But there really hasn't been a great way to measure that. And so productivity still gets the lion's share of effort. Technical skill still gets the accolades. And I do believe that AI creates a playing field that will be slightly different, where curiosity is going to matter more because the productivity can be in the AI. Effectiveness is going to matter more because asking the right question, giving the right prompt, or automating the right system is going to matter more than how hard you worked or how many hours you slaved away. So it really does have the potential to change what it is that organizations do need to get right. And I think that there's going to be a huge unlearning because we have senior leaders who were raised in an effort-filled world. They got where they are because they worked hard and they pushed through the obstacles. They made tough decisions. It's entirely possible that the next generation will have a whole different equation, and that organizations that adapt to that new equation, where they really do somehow find a way to honor curiosity, which is hard to do, somehow find a way to honor empathy, fluency, conversational skills. Those things are really hard to give kind of a platform to. So if we can figure out how to do that, and we can figure out how to make the humans understand that that is their differentiating capability, then I think it's a really actually it becomes, I think, a really exciting place to think about work again. Work will change, and being a human will matter more. That said, I think there's a lot of obstacles in the way, including just decades of embedded behavior.
Great insights from both of you. And if there's any questions, I didn't see any pop up in the chat or directly to us, but feel free to go ahead and log those. If we don't have any come in, one reminder is at the end, as soon as you exit this program, you're going to see a survey area, and that's an opportunity for you to ask questions. We'll route that directly to Micah and Sujata. I'm sure they're both open to networking. I saw somebody drop their LinkedIn in the chat. You could probably find both Sujata and Micah on LinkedIn. I think both of their names are pretty simple when you plug them in to find them. So please do that. And then Sujata, Micah, I've really enjoyed the conversation. You both bring such a wealth of knowledge in the tech landscape as well as the HR and learning space. We do have one question that came in from Natalie. Have either of you hired an AI generalist? Oh, great question. I've seen a new wave of those and wonder if they're necessary. So have either one of you hired an AI generalist, or do you have one at your organization?
We don't. We only reskilled our people, and we do use an AI as a tool for recruitment, but we don't have an AI generalist role and not hired.
Yeah, we don't have an AI generalist role on any of our go-to-market teams as well, but we do have several different kind of AI. The beginnings of this are happening. So we have, a leader now for AI tooling in our go-to-market infrastructure, and they kind of have to know the market of AI. We have a whole series of folks who are kind of becoming our internal coders, our vibe coders, and they again are somewhat AI generalists. But I don't know that we've hired for it. I would not be surprised if we did hire for something like that in the next 5 years. I think it's probably a growing possibility.
Yeah, we're certainly seeing them on the teams, and tapped into more of like a center of excellence. But seeing them wind up in your specific teams will certainly be interesting to see. And like you said, Micah, is very probable that we get there. So we have another question. Where have you seen pushback or hesitancy on the AI upskilling, and what have you all done to combat that?
I'll jump
I'll
in
take.
because oh, go
Oh, go
ahead,
ahead,
Sujata.
please go.
Well,
Go
we
ahead.
have some active resistance because one of the ways in which you might think about customer support in the software that Zendesk sells is that there is going to be a shift between software doing some of this work and humans doing this work, and what kinds of how the constituency, how you build an organization that is best to support that. And we've got some folks that are actively skeptical of AI, some folks who wish that we would slow down, some folks that would wish we would disinvest, who are super concerned about the environmental implications, super concerned about the world ending implications. And I think the two things that I've done, with my teams is number one, address them head on. Those are real concerns, and we have to all be as a citizenry. Like we're not just building companies, we're building countries, we're building civilizations together, and we're intertwined. We have to be intertwined. What happens in China and India and Malawi happened in the United States and China. I think we're all connected. We can't be differentiated, and so we have to take it seriously. At the same time, it's inevitable. And so I tell my teams, like, you can choose to resist and be left behind, and that's an option you can choose, or you can figure out how you're going to personally adjust, upskill yourself, and figure out your own personal roadmap through it. And I don't think that's going to be generic. I don't think it's going to be the same for everyone, but I do think it's inevitable at some level.
Thank you. And Mike, I'll just add on to this from an IT perspective. I think when we started off the awareness, people were excited. They had mixed emotions, as you rightly said. Sometimes people felt AI may take off the roles and so on and so forth. Those were all addressed very well. But later on, when we started on the AI tools, I remember we were not able to get licenses for everyone because of the cost implications. And initial ones were more from a theory and understanding, which they started resisting because they were not getting the confidence if they had to really go. So the way we tried to do it is we started going for V Labs with external learning partners. And for every program that we have use case based learning. And they have to really do a capstone project, or if it's into prompting, they have to give the right prompting to get the right outcomes which are being said. So all of that we started using the labs, and that's how we started actually removing that hesitancy or coming back. People really come back and attend the sessions these days. So that's how we looked at it. Thank you for that
Yeah,
question.
yeah, a great question and phenomenal responses from both of you. I certainly have seen it even within our organization. We joke with some people that we have the dinosaurs in the organization that don't want to evolve, and then they finally start using AI, and they're like, "Wow, I cannot believe how much of a difference it's made." So at our organization, we started Monday work groups to share ideas and improve our AI usage internally within Brandon Hall Group. And just seeing people learn how to use it within their everyday work to either do things better, speed things up, remove some things that they didn't want to do. I feel like that's kind of where people get most excited, is removing some of the mundane tasks that can be offloaded to an agent. So thinking about things like that, will remove some of the hesitancy. It is, of course, where people think that they're going to be replaced is where the majority of the resistance comes from. So being able to work with that, and I'll leave you all with one quick story from someone on the manufacturing. You look at organizations like Toyota, when they brought in robots into manufacturing, they had conversations with all the people on the floor on how the automation was going to help them, how it was going to support them, make things easier for them. Whereas, Ford and GM here in the US, they found when they introduced robots, they didn't have that conversation. And the workers were literally sabotaging the machines in fear that it was going to take their job. So you think about Toyota, who talked about it being an orchestra and everything flowing together. versus not having that conversation and people starting to sabotage it. So the moral of the story, of course, that I'd like to leave you with is find a way to integrate it and have those conversations with the employees, make it part of them and their workload. So we have reached the top of the hour. Would like to again say, Sujatha, Micah, thank you so much for your feedback. If there's any closing thoughts you want to leave, I'll leave it to the two of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much for inviting me. Yes, I'd like to just share one small thing before I leave. I remember going for an L&D summit, and one of our industry practitioners were sharing that, AI has really brought in one great thing. All the emails are so nice to read these days because it's mostly written by Copilot or any other AI tool. Very empathetic, very inspirational. All of those people are trying. The only other caveat that I find is I've seen this even within my team. Initial resistance might be there, but then when they start using it, one thing they forget is to go back and review. Sometimes it's a cut, copy, paste, which should not happen because that's where we as individuals, as humans, should really bring in our expertise and look whether we are sending the right things to the right people. So that's the only thing that I would like to remind the audience. And thank you so much, David, and wonderful conversing with you, Micah, and BHE for inviting me here. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just echo those thanks. Very nice to be engaged in this conversation. I think it's a really exciting time to be a leader in technology or really anywhere where we have this completely brand new capability. I think of it as having like an army of experts at my disposal for almost any single thing I might want to do. And figuring that out and trying to maximize it, I think is a really interesting challenge. I love that Brandon Hall remains kind of at the cutting edge of this. And I just want to do a small shout out for those who are listening to say submit a project to the Excellence Awards. Just the discipline of trying to get thinking about how you're trying to push the envelope will help you push the envelope. So I think that the reason to have those things, the reason to have these conversations is not necessarily because Sujatha and I got everything right, or that David knows it all, or Brandon Hall knows it all. It's the conversation that helps us start to clarify our thinking. So thank you for letting me be a part of it, and I hope it was helpful.
Absolutely. Very helpful from both of you. Thank you for spurring the conversation and making us all better. And I hope you all have a great rest of your day and look forward to having you join another one of our conversations.
Thank you.